He helped her before the storm, but had no idea she was a millionaire. David was a single father, barely making ends meet. His days started before sunrise, juggling 2 part-time jobs, and ended with helping his 7-year-old daughter Emily with homework. Life had been tough since his wife passed away 2 years ago, but David never complained. He believed that as long as Emily smiled, everything was worth it. One afternoon, while driving home from a job site, David noticed an elderly woman standing outside her house. The sky was turning gray, clouds thick with the promise of an oncoming storm. Her roof was in terrible shape. A section had already caved in, and the rest looked dangerously unstable. She stood there helplessly, looking up, holding a phone, clearly trying to get help. David slowed down. Something inside him wouldn't let him drive past. He pulled over, stepped out, and walked up to her. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" he asked. She looked up, her eyes filled with worry. "The storm's coming. I tried calling for repairs, but no one will come on such short notice." David looked at the roof. It needed immediate attention. He had his tools in the truck. He hesitated for a moment. He had promised Emily he'd be home early. But then, he thought, what if this was someone's mother? "I can help," he said. "I'm not a licensed contractor, but I've done enough roof work to hold things up till the storm passes." Her eyes welled up. "Are you sure? I can't pay much." David shook his head. "I'm not asking for money." He climbed up and worked for hours, hammering, securing loose shingles, placing a tarp over the worst areas. Rain began to fall just as he climbed down. His shirt was soaked, hands blistered, but the house was protected. The woman stood under the porch, tears running down her cheeks. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. David smiled, brushing wet hair off his face. Everyone deserves a safe home, especially during a storm. He got back in his truck and drove off, thinking of Emily and how he was going to explain being late, again. But in his heart, he felt peace. Helping her reminded him of who he was, even when the world had given him so little in return. What he didn't know, though, was that the woman he had helped wasn't just any ordinary old lady. She was someone powerful, someone whose identity would completely turn his life around. But that was something he would only find out days later. 3 days had passed since David had fixed the old woman's roof. The storm had hit hard that night, but her house stood strong. David, on the other hand, was back to his daily grind, changing oil at a mechanic shop by day, cleaning offices at night. His back hurt, his hands were rough, but he never stopped pushing forward for Emily. One morning, as he was getting Emily ready for school, there was a knock at the door. A black luxury car was parked outside, and standing at the doorstep was the same woman he had helped. But this time, she wasn't in a sweater and slippers. She was dressed in an elegant coat, hair tied back, with a confident look in her eyes. Behind her stood 2 men in suits. David opened the door, surprised. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" She smiled warmly. "David, we need to talk. May I come in?" Inside, she sat on the worn-out couch and looked around his humble home. Emily peeked from the hallway, curious. "I never got to thank you properly," she began. "The night of the storm, I was safe because of you. But I also realized you had no idea who I am." David shrugged. "Didn't really matter to me." She smiled. "Well, it should now. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. My family owns nearly half the land in this county. Farms, real estate, and development projects. You name it. I've spent years building a foundation to help people who truly deserve a chance. And after what you did, without expecting anything in return, I knew I had found someone rare." David blinked, not understanding. Eleanor pulled out a folder from her bag and placed it on the table. "I want to offer you a job. A real job. I'm starting a new community housing project for struggling families. I need someone I can trust to help manage and maintain the properties. You've got the skills, the heart, and the work ethic. This comes with a steady salary, benefits, and even a home, one of the new ones we're building." David stared at the papers, his hands trembling. "Why me?" Because kindness like yours isn't common, and because my father always said, when you find a good man, give him a good reason to never struggle again. Tears welled up in David's eyes. Emily ran over and hugged him, not knowing exactly what had happened, but feeling the joy in the room. That evening, as the sun set, David stood outside with Eleanor, looking out over the land she promised would soon house dozens of families like his. He had helped her without knowing who she was, and she had changed his life because she saw who he was. Sometimes one act of kindness opens the door to everything you never dared dream of.